Mhm. All right, it's about 3 past and we have a few agenda items today to get through, so we can probably get started. I don't think we have any new members or introductions, so we can probably skip that first item that we have on the agenda and hop right in. Just wanted to share that we are now part of the CNCF organization. So congratulations to everyone for doing all the efforts to make that happen. And we have a few demos and updates for today. We'll start at the top with the Bootsy presentation and or demo by Tim. I will stop sharing, Tim, and let you take over.
So I was going to start with to talk about Bootsy, you really need a little bit of background to understand what it is. But does everybody who's on the call actually know what it is already? Should I do the presentation anyway?
Yeah, I would do some
Right?
background because people may watch the recording at a later point and that information may be useful to them.
Yeah, okay. So let me see how I can. Oh, so you need to stop sharing.
I'm gonna stop now if I can. Hold on. Yes, if I could figure out how to do that, that would be great.
You probably need to go back to Zoom and
I'm in Zoom.
Sure.
I click the share button and it doesn't tell me unshare.
Yeah. Does anyone else know Zoom interface?
Is there a button at the very top of your screen that says stop sharing?
Nope, my screen recording, sign in view, meeting info, apps, more, React. I have the share button at the bottom, but it doesn't, it just,
Yeah, and I don't see any option to stop your sharing or take over.
oh wait, will this do it? Hold on.
Oh, looks
There
like
you
it
go.
worked.
There you go.
And of
I don't
course,
know, at the bottom, I see a share screen. Basically, there is participant, chat, reaction, and share screen.
it changed the screen. Sorry, now I'm gonna have to figure that out.
It's in the top left of the window that you're sharing.
Yeah, it changed what it was sharing
Yeah.
just as I clicked on the button. Okay, so you can see the slides, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll do a little demo of what we have in the Podman Desktop Bootsy extension, but yeah, to understand what it is, you need just a little bit of background. So I'll try and do this as quick as possible, but needed a little bit of background about what the extension is doing. So the first question is, what is a bootable container? That's the key thing you need to understand before we jump to the extension. So anyone here on this call is familiar with Podman, is familiar with containers, and knows that they've changed how applications are deployed compared to 10 years ago, where everything was kind of ad hoc. Now every application going into production is getting there through a container. There's a standard packaging mechanism. There's a standard way of delivering containers via OCI registries. There's a ton of tools around that. It's very, predictable. It's well understood. You have some really cool things like layering, where you can make sure that when you have an update, only part of your pieces are getting pushed out each time. Again, there's a huge ecosystem of tools around all of this, and it is like completely pervasive. It's changed how we deliver applications. But when you go look at operating systems and how operating systems or VMs get pushed out, you know, that hasn't changed in the past 15, 20 years, right? There's largely just a couple of, you know, vendors or companies that are involved in this. You create a big blob on some machine, and then you push the blob out, and there's not really a standard way that, you know, you put them in a registry. There are tools for security and automation. You know, we've been pushing millions of VMs around for years. So tools exist, but it's nowhere near the level of tools and, you know, what we have for application containers. So the question is, you know, what's the real difference between these? Can we do the same thing for operating systems that we have for application containers? So first of all, what's in a standard container today? You have a base image, a UBI or Ubuntu or whatever else, and then you have your app sitting on top of it, and you have, you know, this container file that says, you know, from the base image, I add this, I add that, I delete this, I, you know, change that, and you package it up. Well, what's the big thing missing from an operating system? And that's the kernel. You don't have a kernel in these application containers. Now, kernels are big. You know, they tend to be a gigabyte, you know, to start. But when you put the kernel in, everything else, you know, can sit on top of that. You have a full operating system in a container. And we call that a bootable container, right? The main difference is you've just got an extra kernel in there that you're starting from. So what can you do when you have a regular container, but you have a kernel in it? Well, I mean, first of all, you can use all of the tools that you would today. You can do builds. You can use the same tools that you would on any application container. You can publish them to OCI registries. You can distribute them. The same security tools work. You know, all of the tooling that we built up over the last 10 years where in containers works just as well with an operating system in a bootable container. So there's a lot of nice benefits to having one aligned stack, one set of tools that work with all of these together. And again, it's very familiar to anyone who's used a regular container. You know, there's nothing different about them. They just tend to be a little bit larger than your average container. And again, you have the same workflows. So whether you're talking about an application or an operating system, you can use the same tools, same way of building, same way of distributing them, same packaging. Everything's the same. And there's, you know, huge benefits in aligning that together. So then we get to the extension we have in Podman Desktop. So I'm going to jump straight into a demo, and let's stop sharing and start sharing this. Okay, this should be Podman Desktop now. See it? Yep. Okay.
Yep.
So to get the extension, first of all, you just go to the catalog and you look for bootable containers. And of course, I already have it installed. And that adds a tab on the left here. When you come here, the dashboard for bootc or bootable containers just tries to help you get started. There's an example image that you can pull. We have some blog posts and articles to learn more about bootable containers. And you can go to examples tab where we've started adding some simple examples. So you have something, you know, easy to just pull and start building and testing with. So I've already pulled a couple of the examples. If you go back to the regular images page, again, there's nothing different with bootable container. You see them in the normal list for Podman. We put a little label on it just so you can separate them out. And again, the size tends to be bigger, but other than that, everything's the same. You can push, pull, you know, use all the other tools that you would with bootable containers. To help you see them, you know, in one list, we just have a filtered list directly within the extension. So I have 3 of these pulled that you saw in the regular images view. And I can pick one of these. Let's do tail scale and say I want to build it. So again, at some point, you've created a container file, you've added your application or other parts on top of the operating system. And when you go to deploy these, you still often want a raw image, an ISO, some kind of virtual machine image. So you can take one of these container images and you can still generate we call it a disk image of whatever flavor you want. So I can pick, the tail scale example I have. I'll create a VMDK. There are a bunch of options here for architecture, for other things that you want to add into the disk image. I'm going to gloss over those in the interest of time and just say build. So again, this is taking one of the container images and just creating a VMDK disk image. And you'll see a build here. It does take a few minutes, so I'm not going to sit here watching it all, but it'll build a disk image in the background. So it's easy to test a container image. You can start and stop that. What about disk images? If I go to the list of ones I've built, I can take one like HTTPD image, and we're starting to add support for starting these disk images, starting this as a full operating system. It's limited right now. We're still working on that. But if I click here, it's going to actually boot this thing up. And you can see it booting up just like a normal operating system. And I can interact with it and prove that I've actually built a full operating system here. So yeah, that's all I'm going to show for today. Just trying to keep it simple, give a little intro. Please take a look at the extension. Once you have it installed, there's links to all the documentation, more information about bootable containers. Any questions from you guys? Okay.
It's more like a command. It's just a different way to consume Linux. People used to basically make a large disk image, create bootable image, and configure them. Here you do that with basically the container tooling. That's simpler. You don't need to learn anything more. So that's one of the big advantage.
And thank you, Tim, for the demo. It's also very interesting and entertaining to see how much progress and advancement have been done in the extension since last year, because that's something we initially start to work on last year, and there's so much progress that have been made in the extension. I would also mention that bootable containers are also a project which has been donated to the CNCF. So there's a lot of activities that are happening there, a lot of engagement with Project Bluefin, for example, and a lot of interest from the Linux community. So we hope that this extension can be helping the community to embrace the technology and to more easily work with it. And any feedbacks are welcome here on Podman Desktop or on the Bootsy community as well.
Yeah, thanks, Devon. I meant to mention CNCF and all the activity there. And I should also mention Charlie. Everything difficult that's been done in the extension has been done by Charlie. So thanks, Charlie.
Yeah, it's a team effort.
Great work.
Well done, guys.
Good job. Appreciate it. Okay, next on the agenda, if there are no other comments or questions, we can go to Sonia, who will be presenting the status bar updates that we have done recently.
Yes, give me 1 second to share the screen. Can everyone see Podman Desktop? Okay. So
Yes.
the status bar have gone through a lot of changes recently, and the main one was adding or moving the providers to the status bar. Right now, you can see them here. It was mostly Podman and the CRC extension. But now you can go to settings and preferences and turn on just a second, and turn on the status bar providers. With that, you can see them here in the bottom. The first part is the pin icon where you can choose which providers to show. You can unselect or select. You can do all of them, none of them, or whichever ones you want. Clicking on the widget will take you to the respective provider card in the settings page where you can see everything. One important point is that the icon of the providers shows the status, but it shows the status of the first connection. So for example, in the kind provider, it will show the status of the kind cluster connection. So if I will start the second one, it won't show that it's turned on. But if I start the first one, it will show that the kind provider is turned on. With the tooltip, you can see all of the connections and their statuses. And the provider icons, if you have a white dot, it means that it's running. Grayed out icon means that it stopped. If you have red dot, it means that there is some error with the provider or one of its connections. And an up arrow shows that you have an update available for this provider. If you have any suggestions, feedback, or questions, feel free to go to the experimental tab and share your feedback in the GitHub discussions. And that's it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them on GitHub or even on our Slack. Thank you.
This is great. Thank you, Sonia. Any questions or feedback for Sonia?
I was going to say, thanks, Sonia. Like being able to see the current status right there is really helpful. I did notice you said we only show the status of the first one. I think I'm used to having many Podman machines, and I start a random one, but Podman like auto sorts them to have the latest first most of the time. So I don't notice that because whatever one I've started has become the first one, but other providers don't. So maybe we need to implement something similar, or just if there's one running, show the status, because usually that's the one you care about.
Yeah, I think for Podman specifically, in the extension, it sets the status of the provider as running if you have at least one machine, but it's not the same for any other extensions. So we did change it a bit in the way that it's implemented for the provider widgets. It's absolutely something we can change or adjust.
Yeah, it'd be good to get feedback from others too.
Great. Any other comments or questions? Awesome. Thanks, Sonia. Appreciate it. Okay, next item on the agenda, and the last one for now is just an overview of the latest Podman Desktop release, and I believe Matt's going to walk us through that.
Yeah, I'll do that. Let me just share my screen. So, of course, everything that Sonia shared is included in the release, but I'm going to go over a couple more other things that are also included. So one of the main things that we did in the 1.18 release of Podman Desktop is we made the Docker compatibility page completely got it out of experimental. So that means that if you now go to the settings page, there's now the Docker compatibility page, where you can see all the things that we're tracking. What does this mean? It means that if I go to my terminal and I type Podman PS, it will list all my containers. But with this new settings, I can go into the Docker compatibility page and enable this setting. I already enabled it here because you need to restart your Podman machine after you do it. But it does mean that now if I go into my terminal and I also type Docker PS, which I have installed, you can see that my Podman is responding to the Docker commands as well. That's really useful because it allows all these third-party tools that are made to work with Docker to also work with that Podman just takes care and makes sure they work. An example of that is if I now open my Visual Studio Code, I can actually see that if I go to the extension that used to be called the Docker extension until 1 week ago. Thank you for the Microsoft team for changing this to be like more welcoming to every single container provider, but it still connects to the Docker socket because that's how it's working today. But they're working on Podman support though. But it does mean that if I now go here, the entire UI works. So I can see my containers. I can also see images, and also if I then this extension also has a feature where I can right click on an image and say build image, and then I have to give it a name, which I'll just keep the default name, which allows me to then just build images inside of Visual Studio Code. So it means everything that you're used to doing will just continue working, which is super awesome. Other than that, in the Podman Desktop app, we also made some updates to our Kubernetes support. So in this case, I have a kind cluster running on my local machine. So I can go to my Kubernetes, I can see the dashboard, and I can go and look at what pods are running. In the past, we were just connecting to whatever namespace that you had configured in your Kubernetes context. But now we also allow you to pick other namespaces and view them. So for example, here I'm in the default namespace, but I can go into the kube system namespace and see pods that are running in the kube system namespace as well. On top of that, we also add support for Kubernetes jobs. So if I go to the job section and I go back to my default namespace, here I can also see any job that has been that ran on my Kubernetes clusters. So that's a quick little overview of some of the features that we added. If you want to go see the full everything that we changed, you can go onto the release notes, where everything is nicely laid out, including everything that we just talked about, but there's a couple of other things as well. So thank you.
Very good. Thanks, Matt. Any questions or comments for Matt? Very good. I think we have covered everything that was in the agenda for today. I just want to open it up one more time to see if there are any general questions or comments from folks before we wrap up the call for today.
I have a couple of things that I think are worth mentioning. There were a lot of blog posts which have been written recently on a website which is called xda-developers.com. So you can check out those articles. You can republish them on your network, on your social network. You will see that I think in the last couple of weeks, there's probably 4 articles which have been published, and a last one which has been just published around Quadlets. and you can refer to the last community call if you want to see the Quadlet support inside of Podman Desktop. There is a nice demo as well of the extension. So always nice to see the community speaking about the tools, the solution to other communities. So very interesting. Another thing that I believe is interesting, and Matt has been briefly speaking about that, but the Microsoft team they announced a change for their VS Code extension for Docker for working with containers. That extension in the past was already working with Podman, but for some branding reasons, but also being open in the community. This extension has been renamed container tools, and now the Microsoft team have been also communicating that they will provide a support for Podman, which will be working out of the box. So this is really cool to see that Podman is getting treated as a first-class citizen for this extension, enabling even more developers who are using VS Code to work seamlessly with Podman and Podman Desktop. So stay tuned on this. Very exciting move recently. We are very happy about that. I may be able to find the link to the blog post from Microsoft. Yeah, here it is. Pasting it in the notes. Yeah.
Very good. All good things to share. Thanks, Stefan. All right. Does anyone else have any other general topics or updates they want to share? All right. It looks like it's a no. So the next community meeting is May 22nd. So I look forward to seeing you all there, and we'll chat soon. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.